Here comes the nasty gram.
Send a priest to save my soul, forget it.
Welcome back to the Nastagram RPG podcast. This is Empire's End.
Hi, this is Dean. I'm playing Lieutenant Commander Victor Argus, Operations Officer or Ops.
Hey, I'm John, and I play Lieutenant Commander Poro Randar, callsign Metalhead, Commander of the Air Group or CAG.
Hey everybody, I'm Matt. I play Gaius Loctus Vilfug, and I am the Medical and Personnel Officer, or MED.
Hey everyone, this is Dan. I play Lieutenant Junior Grade Nero Orn, Communications and Intelligence Officer, or COIN.
And I'm Josh, and I'll be your Game Master. This is Episode 9, Cat and Mouse.
All these hungry, angry mouths, forgive it.
Hey everybody, it's me, Matt, again to ask for your help. If you like what you have been hearing, please drop us a review to help others find and enjoy our content as well. And now on to the recap of Episode 8 of our Star Wars RPG podcast on Nastygram. The last few days have been more than just interesting. This damned ringing in my ears will hopefully subside in the next day or two. It would be over already if either of those damned Bacta tanks were functional. Nonetheless, for Gaius Loctus Vilfug is a hero. Father should be proud, in the stories I shall tell the cousins in my next holo message. This surely will help to cement the family name into the Imperial history books, an Imperial Marine crest, a new rank. Perhaps if I play this right, I could be Argus's second. Well, as for RACO 72, things are at a perilous tipping point, to say the least. Suspicions seem to be running wild through the lower ranks of command, but I'm sure Commander Argus will be able to handle them and steer those investigations where they should. I'll need to have Miss Harper coordinate with the liaisons of the NCC to have Captain Cass meet with Sergeant Valen about the next steps planetside, as well as Miss Falcone's team at Kuiper to discuss the future of our partnerships in the ERC. The governor will also need to be contacted about what is actually happening down there, but I shall handle that myself. After that, I must get some supplies from Nero to get to the bottom of this parasite situation. It is beginning to concern me greatly.
All right, and we come right back in on the CIC of RACO, deep inside the Avius. Action stations had just sounded. Commander Argus and Lieutenant Orn had emerged from the intel locker out into the COC, where Lieutenant Vraylan informed you that distress signal from the Kuiper fuel transport coming from Virax 4 carrying your fuel, your goddamn fuel, was being intercepted by 3 Z95s and a medium freighter that he believed to have been the one that the Phalanx 2, one of your customs corvettes, had previously tangled with, that is currently out of action. And we will pick up right there. Tim Vraylan turns to you, Commander Argus, says, "Sir, orders?"
I look at the sit rep is essentially 3 Z95s bearing down on our fuel vessel.
Yes.
What kind of vessel is the fuel vessel? Just some sort of transport vessel.
Bulk fuel carrier. Minimal, if any, defenses. You do have 4 TIE fighters flying escort right now. You have minimal reserves back on the station. Your starfighter complement has been kind of beaten up. You do have a ready flight you could put out there for an intercept with 2 TIE interceptors, 2 TIE fighters. That would give you maybe just a couple that could be pulled into readiness with a little bit more time. And of course, the Indriali Hunter, your other customs corvette, which is also docked with RACO.
That needs to go out. Time to intercept.
Sir, on present course, I give it 45 minutes. If we divert direct course against, that would buy us another, looks over, 15 minutes.
Very well. Launch the alert fighters. We need to get the Indrali out.
Yes, sir. He starts barking orders. Lieutenant Sue comes over to you, Randar. Says, "Bedhead, what are we doing? Who's taking them out?" He says, "I'm ready to go. I've missed the last two."
Sue, you lead in the Tire Interceptor. Lead a hunter flight with Lieutenant Theron as your wing. Knight and Worm are just out. Send X and the other fighter.
I'll look to Orn.
Argus, you want me out there?
Hail them. Hail that transport.
As you wish, Commander. I go over and kind of lean over my officer who's actually standing at communications, and I flip it over.
I quickly say, use. Report to medical.
Cop, sir. Comes back over the intercom panel. The Marines obviously are pushing there. They do have some extra security with the pilots that have been bumped them up, and so there's some additional forces heading out there. And Dan, Orn calls up through comms. You're relaying at this range through the Indrali Hunter, which right now with the comm.
Oh, I'm sorry. To be clear, I meant hail the enemy.
Correct, but
Okay.
Your comm system is still pretty damaged. So for long range comms, you still have to relay through the Hunter. It's kind of seamless once you get a couple things patched.
Just gonna see if they respond. I turn. I shunt over to the other communication. I say, "It's your call, Randar."
I'm going. Sue, and nod.
All right, careful, Metalhead.
I say, were you on CIC?
Yeah.
I say, before you go, just remember that freighter captain is wily. He may appear to be damaged when he is not.
We'll be cautious.
I sit down at the communications desk there, and I say,
Relay this to the Z95s as well.
"Understood. Unidentified craft, please state your intention. This is RACO Station."
RACO Station. This is civilian freighter. Happy day. This is Captain Tworg. How can I help you today?
Captain Torg, it looks like you have some
This is
unrequested...
RACO Actual. I start talking.
Okay.
I say, what is that fuel worth to you?
Oh, it seems quite valuable, RACO Actual. We were just moving it
Used.
to
Do you have the prisoners?
to attempt to aid. It seems that they're rather poorly defended. We'll help bring it on home.
Do you think they're as poorly defended as these X-Wing pilots I have in my custody?
X-Wing pilots. Have fun with them.
I
Okay.
mute the
He's a
communications.
Black Jester.
Yeah, I mute the...
I nod. I just
Yeah,
need to know
okay.
that. If he doesn't care.
Yep,
That's all I was trying to figure out, who they were.
got it.
All right.
Relay that information to Randar. Say, Randar, these men are not with the Rebel Alliance. Expect unconventional tactics.
Will do. We're suiting up.
Black Jesters for sure.
Out in 3.
All right. So Ion Flight is out there, and this is your Hunter Flight heading out.
Yep. Ion is being led by Lieutenant
Theron?
that was in
Okay.
the flight. The Ready 5.
Correct.
Is Theron. Hujada is leading.
Hujada.
Kung.
Call side Kung.
Yep.
My guess is they're going to try to capture this fuel.
Most likely it is a scarcity now.
Interesting.
Josh, can I kind of pull up some of our sensor reports and also the kind of astrogation of the area? Can I start making some logistical, get some sort of logistical idea of where, based on the ship that they're flying, they may have come from?
Yes. Do you have planetary systems?
I do.
Yeah. Let's roll these skills. We don't use much.
die. Okay.
Dr. Vilfug, you're in medbay when the PTSD-inducing sound of Action Station sounds.
And used Watson.
And a few minutes later, Master Sergeant Eust with 2 more Marines to reinforce the additional 2 come to the door. And he strides over to you. He's tall, kind of has this leaning forward stride. He says, "Doctor, where do you need us?"
Guard the door.
Roger
One of
that.
you here, one with the prisoner inside, please.
Got it. No one's coming in.
Yes.
Dan, what'd you get in that roll?
15.
15. You're not certain because your sensors have been a little bit impacted by that damage to the comm system that some fucking asshole did.
Some dick.
But you have been running scans. You feel it's pretty likely that they might have been lurking in the VAD belt
Okay.
and just waiting. They kind of had a intercept course between Virax, as close as they could get to Virax 4 from the VAD belt.
It's pretty unlikely. Maybe not. But would it be pretty unlikely for them to actually have a station in the VAD belt because of how unpredictable it is?
Yes, and any significant station in the VAD belt, it's unpredictable, but also you guys would pick that up like an actual separate base, in the VAD where ships do constantly transit in and out of.
I'm gonna kind of zoom out on that star map and start kind of thinking about where they would be going or where they could be going.
Okay.
I can work on that for a little while.
Sure.
I have a couple thoughts too. I would like to also try to communicate with the freighter.
Okay.
The freighter carrying the fuel.
You feel the thump of ties being launched from the hangar bay. Yeah, very BSG. And you get that relay through, and actually, as you cue that relay up, Lieutenant Avia and the Hunter says, "RACO, this is Andrali Hunter. We're ready to launch on your order."
Now, launch.
Pushing. You call out to the freighter. This is Kuiper 1SX. Go ahead. You hear a little bit of nervousness in the voice.
Sure. I'm sure you're aware of the tactical situation you find yourself in, Captain.
Yeah, hope you get some more help heading out this way.
We certainly do. Their intercept time is approximately 40 minutes.
All right. It's kind of a little close, but...
A couple of things. They're going to try to steal the fuel. I don't think they're going to destroy it. They're not rebels. They're part of the Black Jesters. I'm sure you've been briefed on it in your company meetings.
Yes, we've heard. Pirates. Got it.
Right. I don't think they will destroy your ship. However,
It's comforting.
are you aware of where your lifeboats are located and how many crew do you have?
6 crew.
Very well. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to put all of your efforts into making your way towards our station as fast as possible.
Might
All
not
of it-
look at it, but this is flank speed.
Understood.
Rico.
If you have any additional cargo, I can assure you don't need it. Eject it into space. Anything to gain a little bit of a speed boost. And be prepared to stand by in your lifeboats. If I want you to leave them, I'm going to tell you to leave them, and then you will have 30 seconds to do so. Do you understand?
Understood. There's a lot of fuel on here.
I understand.
Roger.
Listen to me. That ship will not fall into enemy hands. Do you hear me? We will destroy that ship before we let it fall into enemy hands. But we will give you time to escape. No matter what happens today, the Black Jesters get no fuel.
Kuiper 1SX copies. Standing by. Lieutenant Vrayland calls over, says, Sir, freighter and Ion Flight have copied change of pace, or have copied change of arc, moving directly away, adjusted intercept speed, adjusted intercept time, 50 minutes, outbound Hunter flight, and Andrali Hunter. Do you want them to match speeds? The Hunters can get there faster. Andrali is 4 or 5 minutes out.
No, let them stay together.
Copy. He relays it. Randar, you're in the cockpit. You get the relayed orders to fly in escort formation with the Andrali Hunter.
Yep.
It's a mean looking machine, the Hunter. It's a kind of sleek Corvette, and the whole thing is kind of like a much bigger version of a A10 Warthog.
Yep.
It's built kind of around this double turbo laser cannon, which is pretty oversized for it. You look at it and have fond memories of one volley from that obliterating a rebel shuttle in the very recent past.
Yep.
And does have a few other armaments on it, both capital and starfighter scale. So you proceed to fly in formation and pushing out towards intercept. keep checking the monitors, checking the sensors, calls back and forth from RACO, confirming intercept course. It's going to be close, but you guys should get there within a few minutes before them. So you should be able to make the intercept before they can get out there.
Yep. I call out Ion Flight. This is Hunter.
It's Kung.
Kung, as we get close, as we approach, I want you to set out a screen, screening the intercepting headhunters and the freighter. Slow them down as much as you can. We'll be engaging the Indrali will be engaging the freighter right away, and then we'll pin those Z95s against it.
Trayson, jam the communications on the Z95s.
I was just looking that up.
He looks up and says, he looks to Argus, and then he looks to you, Dan. Looks to Orn. He shakes his head. He says, "Sir, we don't have the
Understood.
juice."
Commander, we're not able to do that at this time.
Why?
From the sensors being damaged by the jamming that I had to.
Understood.
Thank you.
Randar, try to jam those Z95 communications. I'd like them flying a little bit blind out here.
I'll do what I can. And then I click off. Indrali, Hunter. This is Hunter Flight.
Indrali, you hear Lieutenant Avia's voice.
On our way in, we're going to need to jam those Z95s if we can. We're using your comm equipment. I imagine you can do something about it.
We can, not yet. When we get a bit closer, I'll see what sensors can work up.
All right, keep me posted.
Matt, in Medbay, klaxons continue to go off now and then, still at action stations. You hear a voice call out from from one of the side rooms where you have these two pilots, two X-Wing pilots under guard. And you hear one of them go, "What's the matter, imps? You got some trouble out there?"
Gonna ignore him and continue looking through some slides and X-rays and such.
All right. Intercept continues to close. The track's closing. You're looking down this simple kind of holographic, sort of analog-looking map. As these little blips get closer and closer. The Ion Flight and the freighter moving directly away from this intercepting freighter. Definitely moves a lot faster than a freighter of that size should. Along with its Z95s, it easily keeps up with them. And then the outbound Hunter Flight and Indrali. And it's tense, but the tracks keep matching. The intercept is still, it looks like they're going to be able to reform before the engagement starts.
Okay. Quick question.
Yep.
What is our intelligence on the Black Jesters?
It was pretty minimal. We had gone over it in that really kind of initial board meeting that
Are
we
they
had.
rebel sympathizers?
No, they were unaffiliated, and from my kind of back channels, they were a relatively unknown and smaller group, at least from on a larger scale.
Because they stay around here.
Yep.
Okay.
And they were relatively new in terms of their presence, and we do know the name of the kind of leader.
I recall. Yep, I have that here.
Somewhere around here. Is it Jazeer Starfall?
It is.
Jazeer Starfall.
That's the one.
Very little known beyond that at this time.
Did we know that they were human or not?
You had unconfirmed reports that Jazeer Starfall himself was not human.
Was not human. Okay.
Race unknown.
Cool.
Fully reskin. What?
There's the Imperial spirit.
That's the spirit. All right.
Hunter Flight, this is Indrali.
Go for Hunter.
We're starting to attempt jamming, but that freighter's got some countermeasures. We're not going to be able to blanket them until we get right on top of them.
We'll keep trying anyway. We'll have Ion Flight provide a fighter screen, hit and run, until we get there, just to make sure it slows them down enough that the fuel truck gets away.
Metalhead, this is Kung.
Go ahead.
We're picking you up. Cypher Sore Eyes. What's our formation for, are we escort or are we moving to intercept?
As soon as we're 5 minutes out, I want you to break off, perform hit and run on those Z95s, get them to scatter a bit, slow them down. We'll engage head on as soon as we get there.
Roger that. We'll time it. I got Mark, minus 330.
Mark.
All right, you guys watch the seconds. You have the comm playing over in the CIC, the chatter between the, it sounds cool. Like, Roger, Mark 330.
Yeah.
Real BSG kind of vibe to it here.
They were so good at doing that.
Oh my God, it was great.
Argus to Cass.
Go for Cass.
Cass, I want to make sure that you and the rest are patrolling the sensitive areas of the ship during this engagement. Particularly focus your efforts on the deck as well as engineering. I've dispatched Use to medical.
I copied that. We've got everybody out on station. I've got one squad with me, reinforced, on alert to respond. We're in a central location.
Thank you, Cass.
Josh, can I make a astrogation check on whether or where their possible exits might be? Or is that more of the planetary systems again?
Give me an astrogation.
Sure. I mean, it's the same. 12, 13.
It's
Hard.
pretty open-ended from where they are. They're definitely keeping their backside open.
Sure.
It's pretty clear they're not. Their approach came out of the Vad Belt with no major bodies behind them.
Got it.
So there's none of the other planets. None of the kind of major obstacles in the Vad Belt are directly there. So it's clear that they sort of have planned well for an extract. It looks like that's the best you can tell. Picking up a specific location,
Nero stands up from kind of the sensors bay that he's been looking at, or the map of the system, and he goes over to you, Dean, and he says, "Commander,
Go ahead.
I'm looking at scans of the system, and they've clearly positioned themselves well. What I can't understand is where their retreat is, which makes me think that maybe they won't.
Meaning you think this is just a simple seek, search, and destroy?
It could. It's more than likely, as I've said in the past, that the Black Jesters have someone on board. They may know how desperate we are for fuel.
I would say you can't pick up a specific trajectory they might be going to, but middle of nowhere is not a bad place for pirates to initially escape to.
Sure, because they could jump somewhere, right?
Of course.
Yep.
So, question.
That's kind of what I meant. They're keeping their
Okay.
backside open for a hyperspace jump out
I got you.
without any clear hyperspace lanes in that direction.
Oh, okay. All right.
So go
Yep.
from here to X to somewhere else. That's
Gotcha.
sort of your
That's
quick
more of the-
assessment.
Got it.
Metalhead Kong,
Go ahead.
Mark 30. Preparing
30.
to turn.
Is that fuel vessel outfitted with a hyperdrive?
It is.
Patch me through.
Stand by.
Skyper 13X. Sight for sore eyes. Nice to have company.
Do you have a way to disable your own hyperdrive?
Disable our hyperdrive.
The only way they can get that vessel out of there is if they jump away. They're not going to tow it away with us on their backs. They're going to board your ship, and they're going to jump away. That's going to be their plan.
We can set off the nav computer, but Corporate's not going to want that unless it's necessary.
I understand that. It might become necessary. We'll accept responsibility for this. Additionally, assume that they're going to board with some type of droid to overcome any type of Nava computer handicaps that you present. You might have to actually take the engines off.
We can shut it down hard.
Thank you.
Commander.
This is Ion Flight. Making turn.
Hunter 1-2, we're going to engage. Hunter 3-4, stay with the Andrali and provide escort in case one of the Z-95 squeezes through.
Copy.
I'm
Yes.
going to go full burn into the fight.
Okay. You're at 4 minutes intercept, and on your sensors, in unison, the Z95s and the freighter turn hard away. Lieutenant Vreeland in the CIC says, looks over your shoulder, Orn. Sir, they're making the turn. They appear to be fleeing.
Could you tell me if anyone else has jumped into this system?
We're not seeing anything.
They're fleeing.
Doot, 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 doot. We have a distress call coming in from Kuiper headquarters on the station.
Kuiper on the station.
Yes,
The
sir.
headquarters on RACO?
Yes, sir. Perhaps our comms are not reachable. I can relay it.
Please do. Radar, break off pursuit. I've seen them lull people to their deaths like this before.
Breaking off.
RACO, this is Ral Torvin with Kuiper. We're getting distress signal from one of our ore containers over Virax 1.
And?
They're being boarded.
By whom?
They don't know. An unidentified tug and light freighter came around the dark side of the planet. There's 2 million credits of ore on there.
Understood. Randar,
Go.
we need to divert our attention to Virax 1. Kuiper Station's being boarded. There's at least one tug and...
It's a tug and a transport that are taking an ore container in orbit over Virax 1.
I see. Looks like they're trying to board and capture the ore.
If we break off now, they may turn around and go for both.
Understood. Maintain your current heading then.
You kind of plug it into your computer really quick, Randar, just to check it. At full burn for the interceptors, it would be an hour 30.
That's lost.
You went out.
Yeah.
So RACO's kind of in the middle, in between Virax 2, the main planet. Virax 3 is uninhabited. Virax 4 is where this fuel was coming from. Virax 1 has the mining facility deep into the system.
The fuel's priority.
Yep. I calm down to hangar or ready room. And I say, Bandit, this is Randar. What do we have left? What scraps do we have left to send out?
I'm ready to go out. We got 1 interceptor, 1 fighter, 1 that could fly.
I don't like it.
Argus, we have 3 birds ready to go.
I don't like it, Randar.
There's only 1 light freighter, a couple interceptors, and a fighter could take it. Or interceptor and a couple fighters could take it.
That's all we see right now.
How many fighters could these pirates have? It's 3 Z-95s. Those are expensive.
RACO, this is Kuiper. What's happening? Are you moving to deal with this?
Commander.
We've lost communications
this.
with the
Yeah.
container.
You may want to ask the Kuiper man whether it's more valuable to lose the ore to the pirates or to jettison himself.
Well, I think we can rescue the fuel.
I think you're right. It is critical.
Randar, how do you feel about sending those birds?
It's not great, but if it keeps us in the good graces of Kuiper, it might be worth it.
We have to show some type of effort, I suppose. I just don't want to condemn those men to death if we're running into something we don't see.
We'll make it cautious. Make sure they don't run into a trap.
Proceed.
Bandit, go ahead with that flight. But don't take any unnecessary risks. Those birds need to come back.
Roger. We got a 55-minute intercept.
All right.
Bring the Kuiper man back online, Orn.
I flipped the switch on the board.
And
Help
again,
is
if I
up.
repeat,
Who am I speaking with?
this is Ral Torvin.
Ral Torvin. Take a deep breath for me. Ral, we have help on the way. You must understand that our intercept time is not great. What that means is that you have 2 choices. You jettison the ore, or you let them take it from you.
We've lost communications. There was a skeleton crew on board. It's just a container. They've already have it.
I see. And have they left yet?
We have indications they've begun movement.
Very well. We have help on the way.
Understood. It might be too late.
Relay any sensor information you have on these people to us.
Josh, question. Does New Calari have any fighters of their own?
New Calari have no combat spacecraft of any kind. The NCC have a good number of planetary craft, repulsor lifts. There are some freighters and shuttles that are registered to the planet that are lightly armed, but there is no starfighters of any kind.
So there's nothing we could scramble planet side that could respond? Okay.
Not this time. It'd
Some of
take
Kuiper's freighters and shuttles have some defense, but essentially they grabbed an ore container. It just sits up there, gets loaded up.
It's a tugboat.
Yep. It's what a tugboat tugs.
Right. Yeah, gotcha.
It's tractor trailer, it's the trailer part.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
So it sits up there, you hook up to it when it's full, you move out.
Got it.
This isn't... I'm trying to...
Lieutenant Vreeland says, sir, communication coming in from the medium freighter.
Put it through.
RACO, this is Happy Day. Looks like that fuel's safe. Now that it's fully protected, we'll head on out. Glad to see you're taking care of the system. Happy Day out. Better luck next time, Imps.
Don't say anything. I'm trying to understand this situation tactically.
Does that mean that he didn't introduce himself as Starfall, right?
No.
Okay.
Randar, the Z95s and the medium freighter jump.
Can I get information on direction of the jump in Star Wars?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I
Trajectory.
I get that information. I say, or in sending the trajectory information to you on the jump.
Understood. Thank you.
Hunter Flight, we're going to try and intercept that, or bandit. Make a show of it, at least.
Hunter and Ion, Indrali, you leave some cover. Indrali pushes the ready flight with bandit push, and about 20 minutes out, and the tug clears complete of Virax 1 with a container and jumps along with the light freighter. And the system goes very quiet.
Clever girl.
Then Vraylan kind of takes
I'm
a
trying to
deep
think
breath.
of why they would do that tactically, though. Why even alert it? Why even have a scramble if they were just going to steal it? We would never gotten there in time anyway.
We might have.
Or are they the opposite direction?
The opposite direction.
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
that's why. Okay.
Yep. Got it.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Then Vraylan kind of takes a breath and turns to you. Sir, should we secure from action stations?
Yes, stand down. Condition 1.
Roger that, sir. And klaxons sound the all clear. And you stand down. Well,
They know our every weakness. It's like they have some overlord that's telling them all of our secrets.
so if any of that was unclear without a visual reference, basically,
I got it at the end, but
but for
probably,
everybody's sake,
yeah,
so
sure.
we mentioned the name of planets. VRX 1 through 4 are inside the VAD belt. So, think of Venus, Mercury, Mars, Earth. Wait, Earth is third.
Wrong.
Who's fourth?
Mars.
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 So there's your 4 planets in the inner system. RACO is in between VRX2 and VRX3. VRX2 is that main populated planet. VRX1 in the inner system has a major ore refining from Kuiper. VRX4 is a gas planet that has fuel extraction. The initial raid happened out towards VRX4 with this fuel container coming in with escorts. Guys reinforced, and a container over VRX1 was seized and taken.
People think it's easy being the Imperials. And it's not,
Hard.
We got it tough. We got it pretty tough.
This is like a sad episode of Cops.
Yeah. Oh, man.
I'm less concerned with Kuiper's profits, and I'm more concerned with my ships having fuel.
Nero nods.
All right, we're going to jump a couple days. All craft are recovered. And what are your all plans? You had a pending meeting that was postponed
Yes.
with Kuiper Corporation. You've got prisoners in the brig and in medbay. You've got a brain-slugged commander. You've got talk about the NCC. You may or may not have saboteurs on board. I'm going to say over these last couple days, just some kind of getting things back in control. A couple of the fighters that have just been being serviced get brought back online. You guys had a decision to make, essentially either prioritizing the starfighters, your TIE fighters and your TIE interceptors, or the Phalanx 2 Corvette.
Yeah.
It's one or the other in a short-term sense of what you have the capability to repair. Obviously, the value of interceptors. Your Corvettes are valuable. And also, in the past, when you have 2, it does put strains on your staffing on RACO, but you can have one of those out patrolling in the station. They're more than capable of doing extended multiple day patrols. So what do you think your immediate priority would be?
I think it's the Corvette. Get that up and running.
I agree. And I think I think...
They can
And-
jump too, right?
Yeah.
So
I think in an effort to make sure that we can maintain Kuiper, we need to re-inspire confidence in Kuiper. especially as they know what's going on from a galactic standpoint. They need to know that we can protect their profits. That's a point of our relationship. And that means we're going to have to make some kind of deal with them to make sure we can do that, get something in return, because things aren't what they were when this arrangement started. Things have changed. We're altering the deal, so to speak. So
Should they pray you don't alter it further?
Yeah.
Or
so yeah, I think that's something we need to do. So I think we definitely want to prioritize that. Hopefully the fuel is going to assist us. It's quite a bit, but we should probably talk to Kuiper first, all things considered.
All right. Meeting with Kuiper and, not to push the point, but at some point for the sake of role playing and exchange of information, a staff meeting about steps forward.
Maybe that should be first.
Your call.
Yeah, let's do that first.
Okay. I will say before that point, got a couple nasty grams to give to Dan and to Dean. Dean, you get that communique a day or so after that last little engagement with apparently the Black Jesters. Dan, those are both follow-ups from your kind of ongoing investigative efforts into stuff that's happening.
Is this ERC or is this...
This is, yes.
Usurpers.
This is your quote-unquote proper chain of command.
Got it.
The Emperor's ruling council, apparently, who is holding control of the Empire, or who is in control of the Empire through your legitimate superiors as Sector Command, Araf Sector.
Okay, I'm going to first of all authenticate this message.
It authenticates out.
Okay, and I will... should I read this?
Yeah, sure.
On Josh to totally F you. Like, you didn't authenticate that message. No, it was fake.
It's the Black Jesters.
Yeah.
2. System Commanders, VRX System from Chief of Operations, Arif Sector, provide full sit rep alpha format regarding operations activities and requests in Sector End.
So basically, I just want you, Argus, and you don't need to type this thing out, obviously, but I want to know what, in a nutshell, with a couple specifics, what do you tell them? This would be a situation where you say, the status disposition of forces, events that have happened, requests, priorities, things like that.
I think I'm going to be perfectly frank, I'm going to be completely honest with what's happening.
Completely honest?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not going to tell him that I've waylaid the CO.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the CO has been incapacitated, and the brilliant mind of Dr. Wolfug is working tirelessly on him, as well as many other who've been wounded. I'm going to tell them about the activities that have been going on here. I don't see, if this is legitimate command, I think it'd be out of character for Argus to be deceptive here.
Okay.
I think he would be honest here. And I think he would request personal support. Because, honestly, Commander, period, next line, I think the new Kalari civilians on board this station have become a liability and need to be replaced. Honestly, it's a liability. I kind of want to do a clean sweep. I know they're not going to send a bunch of people, but even if they send
So your top request is for additional naval personnel.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
All right.
To fill the stations where we're weak and to get this thing humming at better efficiency.
Okay.
And then I think any type of equipment. Obviously, we're running into supply and personnel and supplies. I think more supplies for the Chang, for him to be able to repair and keep shit moving, just to maintain operational effectiveness here.
Chang, CAG, repairs that have to happen.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. You detail all that. Don't request any specific additional assets of any kind.
Any specific assets? I don't know if there was anything quite specific that we needed. I mean, if I had a fucking wish list, I'd say, yeah, send an interdictor cruiser. I'm going to go destroy the Black Jesters where they sit. But,
All right. And then next order of business, did you want to meet with Kuiper or have a internal huddle up first?
Huddle up.
Okay.
So we can talk about how we're going to approach Kuiper. But I'm assuming Kuiper is desperate to talk to us. They just had, their profits ripped.
Been a couple planned meetings delayed for understandable reasons. But yes, so back to the ready room?
Yes.
All right. While we have a slight lull in the action, a couple character points to toss out, I think I missed one from last session around to Matt for Gaius Vilfugs climbing the ladder. I don't think I actually gave you one for that with your kind of the interaction with Argus and the CO's continual incapacitation as you rise up the ranks. And one to Nero for your two sides of the societal coin bond with Vilfug.
That's right.
I think I got most of the other ones. Another one for you, Matt, for your summary of this game. That's what we do. Give little special ones.
Question.
And just because GM has to do GM stuff, I'm going to give one to Dan and Dean for both sending some nice pregame prep stuff to help.
Sexual
Question for you, Game Master.
Yes.
Is there a carbonite facility on the station?
No, I don't think there'd be any reason for there to be a carbonite facility on RACO.
Like the idea of every station having its own.
Has it?
I don't know how.
Here's the locker room. Here's the carbonite chamber. Here's this.
I was going to put the CO carbonite. This is liability.
Maybe Kuiper would in one of their. I don't really know what the point of carbonite is.
Were carbonite, was it more for like prisoner transport, or was it
facility
more
is
for
crude, but it should be adequate to freeze the CO?
I'm going to say there's one in VRX4 because Cloud City was over a gas giant that extracted gases. So whatever the fuck they do with carbonite, they do it out of
It
VRX4.
felt like an experimentation when they were doing it there. It didn't feel like it was a regular thing that just happened. But then it became part of Star
I don't
Wars
think
canon.
they usually put people into it.
No,
I think there's a
that's
different
other
purpose
things.
to it.
The only place I thought he would be. You go into Victor's ready room and he's on the wall. I'm like, I just wanted to make sure he was safe.
Safe here.
Look at the green lights. He's fine.
That says his heart's beating. Don't push the red one, whatever you do.
It's like having a stuffed head on the wall.
It's wild. Of a person.
All right. I missed anything? Oh, and just one
There
note.
was another character point for Victor, I think you said. No.
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Another
I tried.
one, just to note on if there's, we've talked about adding, changing things.
Changing bonds.
One thing to definitely just bear in mind game to game as we play, as you re-listen, to add bonds to other players that you don't have them with
Yeah,
yet.
that's important.
Think about with one shot by the end, somebody had a bond, or each player had a bond with every other player. Don't force it.
Do we not have bonds with each other, all of us?
No.
No, not everybody. I think you only have one right now with Lieutenant Orn. So
Okay.
when they come up, great. And it's more opportunities to hand out character points.
Oh,
Yeah, so.
I gotta have one for Wilfug. I'll work on that.
Grooming. All right. So staff meeting.
Yeah.
Who is all there?
All the department heads should be here.
All department heads.
And
Littering hands.
are we having Doofus?
Thorn should be there.
That's
Oh,
Lieutenant
God.
Doofus to you.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna go to where he is.
Okay. He's in his he has a suite instead of
Makes sense.
So he kind of has like a little office in his.
Do you mind if I do
small
this real
room.
quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Well done.
Yes. Sir, excuse me.
How goes the investigation, Thorn?
You see him, he has a couple data pads out.
There's a bulletin board with strings.
Is he a 4-window Pornhub kind of monster?
Yikes.
You see his combat gear is set to the side. He does have his blaster on his hip, blaster pistol.
I point with my gloved hand to his pistol. Wise.
Yes, sir. As the commander ordered, I believe it is wise for all of us to remain ready at all times.
Thorn, I would be honored if you would join us. We're going to be having a staff meeting soon. I want to come down and personally invite you. 1400.
You see him react very, very noticeably, kind of smiles and says, "Oh, yes, exciting."
I reach out and offer a hand to shake it.
He shakes your hand.
I say, I hold on to it. I've heard good things about your investigation. Keep it going.
Yes, sir. I do have a couple, I wouldn't call them breakthroughs, but pieces of information. Is this something you think we should best discuss one-on-one?
Yeah, by all means, share them. I shut his door.
Well, mainly it concerns the
I
most.
start walking around the room with my hands behind my back.
I've learned he's standing there, kind of at a relaxed parade rest.
There's a picture of him and the Emperor, like he's
It's clearly photoshopped.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a cutout of the Emperor, and all the Comp Force guys can go through and
I'm
their
looking
picture
at
taken.
I'm looking at whatever he has on the wall, and I just glance over. I say, "At ease, Lieutenant. Relax."
Yes, sir. Well, I have learned something of the two Kaleri that made the attack upon Medbay.
Uh-huh.
Yes, well, so they were not part of the crew. They were, in fact, these transients that passed through RACO. It's quite alarming, beyond the fact that
Is this Carillion wine?
Yes, sir. Would you care for some?
No. I'm on duty.
Yeah, yes, of course. He says, of course, sir, I am off at the moment. Yes, well, sir, as I'm sure you're aware, but I think we need to really think about putting some closer attention to. There are a dozen or scores of civilian transients that come in and out of the system on merchant ships or up and down from different Kuiper stations or planets that are largely unaccounted for, sir. And I have good information that these two individuals were in a transient quarters and were some way alerted after the action station sounded with our engagement with the rebels. And, well, from what I understand, they have been more or less holding up there since they arrived. I'm working on tracking down the exact source of their insert into our station, but I have it at a good level of confidence at this moment that they did come up from Virax 2, from New Kaleri.
Excellent work, Thorn. We're lucky to have you.
Yes, sir. I don't know if, again, as we discussed previously, if all members of the staff are cleared for this information. That will be for your discretion, but I remain...
I think the senior officers will be just fine.
Yes, of course, sir. I appreciate the personal invitation, sir.
I'll see you in 30 minutes.
Yes, sir.
I'll leave.
Okay. 30 minutes later, you are all gathering in the ready room. Lieutenant Sean, who hasn't been mentioned before, but he is the under Lieutenant Roy, the second in the engineering department, and he is the only non-human officer, Imperial officer, in the system on RACO, but also in the entire system. That's a pretty uncommon, but there is no explicit policy of it. But he is the watch officer. As you guys gather into the ready room. So again, we have our 4 players, of course: Commander Argus, Commander Randar, Lieutenant Orn, Commander Dr. Vilfug, and then the joy of playing 4 NPCs. We have Lieutenant Warren with Comp Force, Lieutenant Seslin, now in charge of operations, Lieutenant Roy of engineering, and Captain Cass, tactical, in charge of the Marine debt. So it is the 8 of you gathered. Roy is the last to enter. And
why is this Duros here?
He's not.
He's the watch officer running the bridge.
Okay,
Yes.
right.
That was very
Super.
Imperial of you.
Yeah,
He's coming along
Do you
just
s-
fine.
Does Orin say that out loud?
yeah.
He's coming along just fine.
There you go.
And Seslin was concerned.
You'll make a good imp after all. Roy shuts the door, says, "Sorry, got a little held up, but might be some good news for once."
Have you put that fuel to good use?
Yep. Well, best as it can be. I know you talk about meeting with Kuiper, but we got a good amount of it. It's all 90 grade. I mean, it's good. It's fine for the Corvettes. It's fine for all the freighters. It's fine for the station. If we get any resupply or replenishment needs coming into the system, it's fine. But you stick that in ties, and well, they're going to be about as maneuverable as a bantha out there. We got 250,000 liters of it.
Good. Well done. The first thing I would like to do is give you an update on Commander Hethna. And to do that, I would like to ask the doctor to speak about his progress.
Thank you, sir. Commander
I put my hand on
Hethna.
his shoulder and give him a tap on the shoulder as I walk past him and sit down.
Stand up.
Grooming.
Walk to where he was standing. Nod. Thank you, sir. Commander Hethna is currently stable in a coma. There doesn't seem to be any conscious movement yet. I am hopeful. We are slowly coming along with repairs to the med bay, so once we are fully up and running, I'm sure we will be able to bring our commander back just as he was. As for the creature, I am finalizing a test to make sure that there's been no spread of this to any of us here or others on the station, but with your permission, sir, I'd like to roll it out and start taking samples from some of the crew in the next few days.
Of course. You had some security concerns for this creature, did you not? Regarding
I did,
its
sir.
communication effect.
Yes, I've put in a request for Nero to obtain some electro devices that I may run some experiments with. I'm hopeful to get some answers as to what exactly it is and how it is affecting our commander.
If I'm not mistaken, you had some security concerns regarding this thing. I don't just mean medical.
Objection, leading the witness.
Well, of course, sir. There's still don't know what it is and how it will affect the commander. He is in isolation and lockdown and will remain so until I deem it medically wise to allow him to resume duty. But
Understood. Nobody would question your medical expertise on this.
thank you, sir.
I wish we could just post Dean's face as he looked around the actual role-playing room as if Commander Argus was just settling into that chair.
Death stare.
Anybody want to say anything about that?
The irony of me wearing a shirt that says "Thus to all tyrants" is just not lost on me.
Yeah, Vilfug I'll finish up. And until such time as I clear him, sir, I look forward to your excellent leadership through these situations. That is all. Click my heels, salute, and go and sit down.
Another point for you, Matt, for climbing the ladder.
This is
say
easy.
I say a commander is only as good as the people around him.
Eventually that sponge will be run dry and we'll have to replace that one.
So I say, a commander is only as good as the people around him. Which brings me to you, Thorn.
So,
Please, share with us the findings on your investigation. In fact, it might be a good time now to let people know why they've probably seen you patrolling the hallways and keeping us all safe.
so thank you. He stands, kind of marches smartly to the front of the room. Heels click as he turns. And he says, Gotcha.
Close, man. That was real close.
Well, it's a spit take. He turns to the kind of semicircular conference table and says, well, as most of you are aware, as the representative of Compnor, in a way, as a representative directly from the heart of the New Order, I have responsibilities to not just the security of the station, and of course my duties here, but to ensuring the security and loyalty to the Empire. With certain recent events which most strongly display problems in this area, I have begun to conduct a thorough investigation. I have some initial findings to report. Commander Argus has deemed you all to be cleared for this information. His eyes very obviously pass over Orin as he says it. So we can only hope that there are no security gaps here. I have discovered with a strong degree of confidence that the two Kaleri who made the attack on Lieutenant Commander Dr. Vilfug's medbay were in fact transients upon this station that had come up in recent days from Virax 2. These transients are a matter of grave concern to the security, assisted only by the fact that I find it highly likely that there are sympathizers, or perhaps rebel operatives, amongst the station personnel. I can only hope that is solely on the civilian side, but that remains to be seen. Again, the eyes track over Lieutenant Warren. These two were notified in some way, the details of which I am still working to ascertain. They appear to have been staying fairly out of sight.
I can speak to that message.
I will just let me finish reporting my information. I'm sure you have access to plenty. They were notified shortly after the action station sounded in our engagement with the rebel X-Wings, and it appears they were roused from their readiness to launch this attack. At this time, I have numerous leads that I am pursuing that I will follow up with Commander Argus.
He says numerous leads.
I will follow up with Commander Argus once there's more information, and he will decide if it is to be passed or not. He clicks his heels again and says,
I put my finger up.
So,
You say these men come from Virax 2.
sir, I can say that with a 90-degree certainty.
Interesting. Do you think continuing your investigation planet side would assist in your lead development?
Sounds like Commodore needs to be more proactive. Commodore allowed rebel sympathizers to walk on board. I think it would be dutiful for them to be, well, where the action is.
He smiles tersely and says, I would like to pursue the few leads that I have. Perhaps planetside would be the next logical course. And sir, I did mean to speak with you privately on this, but to facilitate this, I have put a formal request in to ComForce Sector Command for an additional ComForce detachment, which would aid security at the station greatly. And with that in hand, I would be more than able to pursue these
Give my
leads,
pilot a rest, at
wherever
least.
they may be found.
Indeed. That seems wise. Major Serwin Stromwell, do you know him?
I'm aware, the Imperial Army detachment commander on Virax 2.
Indeed. There is much rebel activity brewing on the surface of that planet, Thorn. I would be more than willing to bet that he would be most grateful for a competent Compnor lieutenant to aid in ensuring that these stones do not remain unturned. They're not.
Randar, just closes his eyes and is nodding along to Argus, solemnly, yes, of course.
Argus continues by saying, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the NCC, as well as Major Stromwell's detachment of 140 Army personnel, lack investigatory experience to pursue these leads.
Yes, sir. Of course, with your permission, I would like to finish this investigation. I believe I am close to uncovering some more information regarding other breaches we may have here on the station before we pull the threads planetside.
Absolutely. Stromwell has asked officially for our assistance, so what kind of timetable should I tell the man?
I believe within 1 week I will have ascertained everything I can at this time here.
How about 3 days, Lieutenant?
We will work quickly then, sir.
I'll let Stromwell know. He'll be happy.
You most certainly won't. Thorn clicks his heels again and
certainly
moves back and sits at his seat, looking a little flushed, a little. You kind of see his mind racing as he's sitting down.
Okay, should our intelligence officers share this information with each other before he goes planet side? Obviously,
Of course. The best way to facilitate this investigation is for departments to be working together, not against each other.
I couldn't agree more, sir.
Well, as you all know, we're going to be heading to discuss things with Kuiper soon. Kuiper took a significant loss from that last Black Jester raid.
Sir,
Go ahead.
before we venture into Kuiper territory, I would like to speak on Lieutenant Thorne's findings.
Please do. Is Thorn still there? Yeah.
Yeah, he's staring daggers at Orn now.
Thorne was quite right. You have done good work, Lieutenant.
Thank you.
The two Kaleri operatives, they were alerted, and I know where the alert came from.
Convenient.
It may be just called good investigative work. I'm afraid the capabilities of the individual that created the message, they are quite skillful. And I have narrowed down the department. Specifically, it's from the engineering section. Whether it's from the crew or the civilians.
Bullshit.
It can be from any
Roy
department.
chimes up.
It's true. I can show you the message.
Listen, Orn, why don't you come speak to me if you think you got a problem in my department before you call me out in front of a staff meeting?
I don't have a problem with you, Lieutenant Roy. Your efforts are invaluable. We wouldn't be here without you.
You're saying you think I got a mole in my department? Department's working harder than any department on this piece of junk?
I'm not saying I think, Lieutenant. I know. I'll show you the message if you'd like.
Show me the message. All right. Why don't we all see it?
I bring it up, and it shows a message that comes from the engineering department to a comm terminal in one of the civilian areas. And it says, immediate action, XXX, compartment B2-44, XXX, extract/eliminate prisoners from Medbay Section 7F. XXX, recommend distraction deck C low security.
I look at Cass when he says deck C low security. That's less his responsibility, probably more Eust's, but I'm just curious as to how he responds to that.
You see him kind of grit his teeth and
Yeah.
He kind of nods like in agreement as he hears it.
This message was encoded in a rather harmless routine status update signal. It's a very impressive and complex bit of work. And to add to that point, their engineering expertise must be significant. One of the earlier efforts that we put out in order to see if we could lull them into a trap, this looking for that power spike that they originally used to create these issues in one of those compartment bays, I can tell that someone has tiptoed around it.
Somebody skillful.
Very.
Who has that type of skill on this ship?
There's only about 30 people. Specifically, I give that number within the engineering section.
How many of those 30 have access?
I mean, all with the right amount of skill. I mean, they all have access to the point where if they had that kind of skill, they could get deeper. They don't all have necessarily like authorized access.
Yeah.
Within that section, all 30 are capable.
Very well. How many of them are new Kaleri?
In the
Civilian section of the engineering section, there's 19 civilians.
say 12.
Amongst the civilians in the engineering section, sir, 12.
Very well. We need a list of those names.
Assuredly.
Continue. I look at Cheng as he's talking.
He is chewing on his little data pad, little touch stick.
Much
Just
of this
gnawing on it, looking at Orn.
Much of this information, sir, is not specifically of my finding, simply processes I put into place. The GUI.
So let me get this right. He just leans forward. You have pre-existing thought that there was some sort of issue in the engineering section?
Sir, your section has the greatest amount of civilians on the entire RACO station.
That's right. And who's responsible for him? And who was not notified that you believe there's a security risk there?
Sir, I believe the commander is responsible for everyone on board this ship.
I'm goddamn responsible for the engineering section. All right, Orn? And if there's an issue with it, you bring it to me.
I chime in. Roy's right. If you have an issue with pilots, you'd come to me. If you have issues with mechanics, you go to Roy.
Dean, Argus catches a look that Ceslin shoots to Roy, and he kind of like locks eyes with her for a second and kind of looks down and keeps gnawing on his little data pad stick.
They've had a discussion.
About someone who bucks chain of command, maybe?
Okay.
Lieutenant Roy, I understand your frustration.
I'll let him keep talking for a minute.
It's not easy to have a traitor amongst you. But it happens to the best of us.
Orn,
You
I stand up.
see his pressure building.
I stand up.
I fall silent.
The department heads are responsible for the people under their command. And a breach in etiquette is one thing. Maybe even a breach in the chain of command. However, if this information proves to be accurate, it is much more important than our egos, isn't it? Now look around the room. Could he have gone to you first? Sure. Maybe that have tipped them off? Perhaps. Is it the right thing to do? Is it what we're trained to do? Yes. The department heads need to have trust with one another, enough to be able to communicate with one another. Roy doesn't manage Orn's personnel. Orn doesn't manage Randar's personnel, and so on and so forth. We're senior staff officers. We all understand that each department head is responsible for the people under their chain of command, and that proper command etiquette dictates that we take those problems to one another first. Everyone here knows that. Orn knows it too, and perhaps it's a misstep by him. We're not going to talk about that here.
Dean, as you kind of take a pause and Argus collects his thoughts, it kind of dawns on you that as, busy as you've been and as close tabs and doing definitely a stellar job, and you feel confident in the job you've done of managing personnel, you suddenly feel the weight that you hadn't really considered of essentially dual hatting.
Sure.
As CO and XO.
Right.
Over the last 10 days or so.
I see what you're getting at.
Just something that would definitely be in Argus's mind.
Got it. Yeah, because it's been only how many days has it been?
Yeah, I think coming up on 8, 9, 10, as we've done a day here, a couple jumps. So about 10 days ago, 9 or 10 days ago is when you got that first message about Endor.
Endor. End. Or.
Well, on the topic of personnel, Argus, I want to throw out a couple commendations for my pilots. Knight for the Distinguished Flight Medal for his bravery in the combat, in the engagement against the X-Wings. And Worm for Medal of Valor for the wounds he suffered distracting that shuttle until the Adrali could get in range.
It's a good idea, Randar.
Got to keep morale up in these times.
Indeed.
I'll have the reports on your desk.
Roy.
He seems to be like his bubbling slowly receding to a simmer. Yes, sir.
I understand where you're coming from, but let's talk about the facts. We need to learn about the security breach. This is very important.
Sir, we can't learn much if nobody's sharing information until it's too late. Lucky Medbay is not a vacuum hold space.
Very well. From this point forward, I look at Thorn and Orn. I expect departments to share information openly.
Nero nods his head slowly.
Do you understand this? I let my eyes settle on Ceslin for a second.
She's kind of nodding affirmatively, and then as your eyes lock, she
And I
kind of looks
I don't leave him too long.
directly at you. Her eyes duck down for a minute, and she nods again a little bit slower.
We are never going to defeat. Do you folks understand the tactical situation we have before us? Randar's seen it. We've all seen it up close and personal. We've seen the strain it's put on every single department. We need to not be fighting each other. We need to maintain communication efficiency within the departments, intra and interdepartmentally. It's the only way we're going to survive this. We're battling the Black Jesters. We're battling the Rebel Alliance. We're getting no help from the NCC. And we are battling ourselves. We have control over some of those battles. And the first thing needs to be not battling ourselves, or we will never, ever thrive. We'll be doomed.
Sir, on your mention of the rebel scum, if I may,
Please do.
we do still have 2 prisoners, the X-Wing pilots in Medbay,
Indeed.
as well as that new Kaleri from the surface.
You have some thoughts on this?
Well, perhaps they may know something.
I'm assuming you have the drugs to get that information from them.
I think with somebody's help, I certainly could make something to work, and I'll shoot my eyes over to Nero.
The ITO will be at your disposal, Doctor.
That's an interrogation droid?
Yep.
Yeah.
Very well.
Probably want your assistance in operating that.
Sure.
The X-Wing pilots, they're veterans. My bet is they know something.
Indeed. Let's see what kind of information we can get from them.
Captain Cass looks up at you, Argus, and says, Sir, question. The Emperor's commando order that all captured rebel operatives, uniformed or not, are to be considered illegal combatants and thus not subject to any protections of prisoners of war. Does that still stand, considering recent developments?
The rebel operatives are not a legitimate fighting force. They're all terrorists.
Understood.
I look around the room.
Sir, I
Nero
understand I mentioned the rebels, but the new Kaleri from the surface, not entirely sure how all of that plays in with the Black Jesters.
They're criminals.
Well, he was captured with, I believe her name was Sela Lavar.
Mhm.
If we interrogate him as well, we could yield some answers on that front.
Indeed.
If you'd like, I can take control of all of that and come to you with any necessary protocols if you'd like.
I trust your precision.
And the vibroblade slowly comes up to the top of the table.
Regarding Virax 2, sir.
Quick question before you jump in. Sorry. John, how does Randar feel about that? Do you, as a combat pilot,
He doesn't feel great about fellow pilots being subject to that kind of interrogation. But he also doesn't, he thinks he's in a room full of enemies, except for perhaps Cass, about that.
got it.
So he kind of shoots Cass a look as he was asking that. But
You meet eyes for a second. Cass is not a very emotionally demonstrative person in any way. But you assume he asked the question for a reason, but doesn't make any kind of comment or statement after that. Eyes briefly kind of lock, and I was just curious to kind of get a little insight into your character.
Argus, if you don't mind, I could potentially take a talk with the lead X-Wing pilot. Pilot to pilot tend to open up a bit more, at least to begin the investigations.
Very well. Coordinate that with the doctor.
Will do.
Commander, speaking of Virax 2, the GYI information droid here that I brought with me. There's like a humanoid-looking droid standing behind me. Has the initial findings on the probes that we sent to investigate the surface.
Topography.
Shall I proceed?
Please do.
I turn to the droid and I say, go ahead.
Report as follows. 4 modified Viper probe droids dispatched from Sigma 1-1 onto surface of planet grid X94 by 4-3
Get to
Alpha.
the information.
Results. Survey conducted over 110,000 square kilometers. Land previously identified. 5 settlements. Average population 100 individuals. Actual survey results 130 settlements. Average 40 individuals. Extrapolation of information. Population believed on Nucleary on VRX2 to be 700 to 1200% previously estimated population. Certainty 62%. End report.
62% certainty.
62% certainty. Population increase of 700 to 1200% over previously estimated population of 150,000 Nucleary.
The variables, the percentages will only increase the more time the Viper probe droids remain.
Of course. So am I led to believe that our initial thoughts were 5 settlements averaging 100, but it's more like 130 settlements averaging 40?
That was the intelligence we were given, sir.
And this was basically took a, not a random, but what was deemed to be a representative chunk
Swath.
of terrain.
They just did geographical averages.
And, the survey census reports showed 5 settlements. Actual in-depth probe droids, which go, pretty slow. They're not massive sensor packages. They're low altitude. They're basically over treetops. Identified 130 settlements where they thought there was 5.
Jesus.
Makes you wonder why they call it intelligence. Navy SEALs.
It is eye-opening, sir.
It's gross incompetence is what it is. That's what the survey team came back with.
That's what our initial reports when I arrived here on RACO Station suggested.
Pretty much all pulled from baseline imperial census data, which was probably just given to them from the governor, the council, whatever.
So the census people just were like, yeah, here are the numbers. They didn't do anything ahead. They didn't verify.
Out here? With what?
Okay. Well, presumably somebody was here before we just set up a station, right?
Nope.
Oh, there wasn't.
No.
Okay.
So 6 months ago, there was 0. 6 months ago, for all intents and purposes, Virax wasn't really part of the Empire. I mean, on a map, it's Imperial territory, but they were only accepted in as an Imperial colony 6 months ago.
Okay.
So you guys kind of showed up.
Can I not be on the hook for having shitty information?
I mean, you're on the hook for that's what you were given.
Yeah, that's fine. But if I've been here for 6 months and
A lot to do.
yeah, that's true.
And the Empire showed up 6 months ago. RACO Station was begun. Modifications on the existing ones were begun 6 months. Some of you may not have been here for the entire 6 months. And you don't have a lot of assets, and there's a lot of intel needs in the system. Kuiper was increasing operations. The population, the rural population of a planet was probably not high on the list of anybody's priorities.
Understood.
There's one main city. There's a bunch of little settlements.
Okay. This is good information to have.
Nero nods.
I wonder why smaller settlements.
On purpose, perhaps? Spread themselves out, make it more disjointed. If one of them is attacked, then only 40 die instead of 4,000.
Indeed.
Cass looks up at you, Argus. He says, "Sir, if I may,
Please do.
we're asking questions that no one here is qualified to answer. We're asking questions about a culture that none of us have more than the most cursory experience with. These aren't just tactical questions that we can assess. We're talking about the population of an alien species that we don't really understand.
Nero's nodding.
I mean, it's clear with the amount of people that they have on that planet. We have to work with them. We can't be adversarial to them.
Indeed, I know that's one of Cass's points from earlier.
Working with the NCC.
Reaching out to the NCC, Cass.
Sir, he looks around at the rest of the room and he's still sitting down. Says, it was just a thought I had. I've had some experience with guerrilla operations, working kind of embedded in a different situation, and it has its share of risks for sure, but it's a little bit of a gamble. It's a cost reward. There's a lot you're not going to ever get unless you get buy-in from some of these people. The NCC, they already know things that we're not going to know if we're here for another 3 years.
No, 30.
One thing that a population that size does suggest, sir, is that there is probably a leadership structure that we are unaware of.
How do you propose, Cass, that we go planetside and gain that information?
Sir, I'm not a diplomat. If you ask me, I would go back down there and I would try to talk to Sergeant Vorta, the NCC NCO that I interacted with. I have a good feeling about him, but is that the right thing to do? Is that going to ruffle feathers? Is that going to go up bureaucracy's ass the wrong way? I don't know. There's a good chance it could. Somebody else might say you go right to the top. Who's the head of the NCC? Have the governor talk to him.
Politics is not my strong suit, Cass. I'd much rather deal with the sergeant. And you seem to have a good sense for the man. How would you feel about accompanying me on that trip?
Be happy to.
Very well.
So while we're all in here and talking about different things, I've read some of the reports, but what are our assessments of what we're up against? The X-Wings, the Z-95s?
Our assessments are, we're up against whatever rebel presence we have down on this planet that routinely interrupts us. We deliver them a pretty harsh blow. Compliments of Randar last time they tried to come here. These Black Jesters operate apparently out of the VAD, and
Opportunistic.
they're just taking opportunities to hit us where they can, but their attacks are a bit different. The Black Jesters are interested in making runs where they can make money. They don't care about defeating us or embarrassing us as much as they care about getting something for their efforts. I can't say for certain if the Black Jesters are involved with the rebels. I don't think they are. So we're dealing with two different enemies. I'd like to believe that the pirates are more of a nuisance than they are an actual threat to all of our lives. They're clever. They operate in old equipment. They're thieves. That's how they operate. The rebels are trying to win. They're trying to kill and maim us.
The pirates may be a nuisance to us, but they are not a nuisance to Kuiper. They are a real threat. And the more that we allow those pirates to get what they want from Kuiper, the less support we're going to get from them.
Indeed.
I think we need to destroy their combat operations. If possible, destroy those Z-95s and any combat ships they have. I don't care if they're peddling whatever they want on planet. They can't have combat operations in space. They need to be destroyed.
I agree. I would like to see what kind of plan you have to execute that. I would be more than happy to meet with you and discuss possible options, but seek and destroy the Black Jesters, secure a relationship with Kuiper, which is melting down the more we let them lose profits.
I have a couple ideas on that.
Very well.
I'm sorry, I'm going to wreck on one thing because I kept giving too much spotlight to Cass. Cecilin would have brought up that last question. So that came from Lieutenant Cecilin.
Okay, cool.
Chief of Operations.
That's fine.
Just record yourself saying, Cecilin says.
Good idea.
Sounds a lot like Cass. I'm just looking through.
On that front, Nero, any idea of where those ships went, where they jumped to?
You're confident it wasn't to
Yep.
a system?
I say, as the Black Jesters have proven themselves to be, they are opportunistic. They strategically use the VAD belt to their advantage, as it's constantly changing It is hard to pinpoint where they may be hiding. To be clear, they are not stationed in the Vad Belt.
Do you think their base is outside of it?
I do. The approach that they took towards the fueling ship, they left a rather exposed area in order to jump to an unknown location. I haven't had an opportunity to fully investigate the reports you brought back, but likely they were careful.
Lieutenant Seslin speaks up again. She says, there's something else that I've been thinking about this, that medium freighter. We have an extreme degree of certainty that it was the same one that engaged that Phalanx 2. I reviewed that information, gun data. Lieutenant Sue and I spent some time going over it. She looks at you, Randar, and she says, there's a couple things that I think, and this, some of it's a guess, but from that data, that freighter took a good amount of damage. The Phalanx 2 is still down. If it wasn't as damaged, sure, but unless they flew right to a shipyard, I find it unlikely that it was at 100%. And couple that with the fact that it's more than a coincidence that followed up so close on the engagement with the X-Wings, and it makes me think that they're not just opportunistic, as Oren pointed out, certainly are, but also risky. That had it come to an engagement, that freighter might not have even been able to stand up like it did before.
A lot of deception, a lot of trickery from these Black Jesters.
And risk, if that's right. I mean, it's my guess, but I have some confidence in it.
Indeed.
Well, then, we need to be deceptive on our own. I think we need to lure them into thinking another ore container is unprotected, that our fighters are 2 hours away.
Very well. Maybe we can take advantage of their propensity to take risk. Perhaps we can coordinate with Kuiper. Perhaps we can set up some type of dummy vessel and lure them into attacking it. Lure them into maybe even boarding it.
I'm worried that they might have information or informants in Kuiper Corporation. Any kind of coordination with them will have to be with confirmed personnel.
I do believe that the Jesters, if anywhere, are likely aboard RACO. At least one. It wouldn't be much of a secret to understand our situation here on the station and our fuel shortages being the priority that they are. It was a rather obvious play on their hand.
I see.
The life of a criminal is risky. They take risks.
Indeed. Piece of operational order that I would like to bring to your attention is I've contacted Chief of Operations, Arif Sector. More precisely, they contacted me. They asked for a sit rep. They also asked for activity requests, etc. I want you to know that I have made a request to get more Navy personnel as well as more supplies, priority 1 being engineering. Now look at Roy. Priority 2 being the deck, the pilots. So any type of addition, pilots. What am I trying to say?
Deck.
The deck.
Yeah. For Seslin.
I love my deck.
We need to make sure that we can continuously fix and resupply these things. And I would like to start, to be frank, drumming out some of these New Kaleri civilian operatives whose fate, it appears, were in their hands. I don't know if this request will be met, but I have put it in. If there's any specific types of equipment you want, I need to know. Of course, we don't want to overwhelm them, but anything that we can deem as high priority, just let me know.
2 flights of interceptors, interjection cruiser. Let's see, what else?
What about something to protect these wide gaps of space between us? Perhaps mines.
Mines or a sensor array, some sort of
Early warning.
satellite around all of the planets.
Perhaps something smaller, sir. New
Yes.
Bacta tank for medbay.
Very well. I'll put stuff like that in that request.
You see that pops up on your screen a list of parts for repairing the sensors
Yeah.
on RACO station.
Shit like that.
Yep.
Okay. Very well. Well, I think the first thing we need to do is we need to. I just want to see what else I wrote down just to remember. Oh, NCC. Obviously, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I say, so it seems we have things to do. We need to interrogate these prisoners. I would like to continuously. The reports have been coming in on the personnel. Keep them coming as you can. I think we need to devise a strategy for going after the Black Jesters to cement our relationship with Kuiper. We need to speak with Kuiper, and we need to speak to the NCC. Anything else?
No, sir, but as for speaking to Kuiper, Marita Falcona has contacted my liaison, and she would like to meet with you in the next day.
Right. She will come here.
She is aboard vessel, sir.
She's on the station now.
Yes.
Perfect. Nero, is there anything else? I'll look around.
Nothing from CAG.
I say outside of Ceslin, Roy, and Nero, you're dismissed.
Randar gets up.
Okay. Ceslin, Roy, and Nero?
Mhm.
Okay.
See me after class.
All right. Ceslin and Roy stay in their seats. She kind of glances over at Roy. He doesn't really look.
Doesn't seem too concerned.
He kind of puts down that little data pad entry stick he was chewing on and goes,
Nero turns to the droid and says a few words away from everyone, and the droid kind of marches out as well.
you speak binary to it?
You know it.
No. 111100001111. Not 111111100001.
01010101.
Is that from fucking Galaxy Quest? It sounds like such a Galaxy Quest joke. That's really funny.
Could be Spaceballs too, right?
All right. After school meeting, parent teacher conference underway. Ceslin and Roy are there with Orn. So you have your, as they would be called in departments S2, S3, and S4, Intel operations and logistics or engineering. And what does Daddy say?
I stand up and I'm going to just start walking around the room doing like I do, looking at the little art pieces on the wall. And I'm going to let a real uncomfortable silence sit for a minute and see if my ploy plays out. Because I know Roy's going to open his fucking mouth.
Did you see me leaning up to the mic?
I know exactly what his guy. You didn't even have to. I knew he was going to.
Sir, I got a lot to get fixing. And listen, I apologize if I was a bit agitated. If you want to just, give me a slap on the wrist, whatever it is. I'm sorry I was a bit out of line. I should have spoke to Orn about this after the fact, but what I said stands. We don't got a lot to go on except for people in this room. So if we can't trust in each other, then we're up Schitt's Creek. If we can.
And that's what we need to do. We must trust each other, or we're all dead men and women. Do you understand? I look around at them.
Roy nods his head pretty vociferously.
These departments are crucial. Outside of Randar, whose performance has been excellent, these are the most critical areas on the ship. Information is crucial.
Nero nods.
Engineering is crucial. Operations is crucial. If any of them fail, we're doomed. And if we are undoing the efforts of each other, we are quite doomed. I'm not interested in slapping you on the wrists. I'm interested in keeping you alive. That goes for all of you. And I know no matter what I say, you're not going to miraculously trust and respect each other. That's not how people work. But if I don't see an effort to get whatever this is out of these discussions, there will be consequences.
See, Lieutenant Sesson kind of look at you and look down at the table for a minute. Not a full minute, but a long beat.
I get it.
Looks back up and she nods.
I nod.
She doesn't look at Nod. She doesn't look at Orn, but
I understand.
she gives you a nod.
The people in the positions that they are in the positions that they are in, and we must make do with all of them. And each of you that are in the positions you are in, I trust wholeheartedly, or you would not be in those positions. And ego? Ego is the quickest way to find yourself dead. I walk out and I leave them in the room. I let the door shut. I just leave
I pull
them
my
in there.
blaster.
He fucking Wild Bill Hickox all of them.
Oh, yes. That
Was that
so
you or was that me,
gangster.
Montana? My money'd be on you.
Roy kind of grunts. Cecilin sits kind of silently for a moment, and then she stands without a word and just walks out. Well, as she walks out, Roy looks at you and says, all right, sorry, Orrin, but
No need to apologize.
yeah, well, I don't. I was expecting you to do the same goddamn thing. Proper courtesy.
Nero shrugs his shoulders. Sure. I apologize.
Let's just see what we can do. Keep this bucket of bolts flying and keep this empire running out here.
It's a lot to ask.
Yeah. Well, I don't much like the alternative, so let's just focus on that, all right?
Agreed. Make sure you get your list to the commander regarding what your needs are. Our negotiations with Kuiper Corp are malleable.
Yep. I hope his data pad has enough space on it for it. He stands and walks over and puts his hand out.
Nero stands and shakes it.
Kind of, you know, he doesn't like try to do it, but he's just
Sure.
a big husky guy,
Yeah.
and he kind of shakes
Nero's
you a
pretty
little
slight,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah. And slaps you on the shoulder and walks out. And we'll leave it there.
Nice.
Dean,
Okay.
another point for In Control. What a good wrap up there at the end. Daddy knows best. That was fun. That was good. Good talk. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of Nastagram. We hope you're enjoying Empire's End. You know the deal. We're going to ask you to spread the word, tell a friend, post about it online, do whatever you can. Ratings, review, everything helps. And get involved. Got a great community over at Facebook at the Nastagram RPG Lounge, or just pop over onto the website, nastagrampod.com. Links to all our socials and bonus content and more coming soon. Our intro music, as always, is by a Wilhelm Scream. Scores this arc are from both Adrian von Ziegler and Antti Marttikainen. We'll be back with another episode next week. Why don't you bring a friend?
That's nasty.
Josh, I don't mean to interrupt. Sorry, but there's a cord that's not plugged into anything. I just want to make sure it's not like.
Is it one of the ones you've been fucking kicking around for the last 15 minutes?
Is it okay that audition's off?
No, that's fine.
It's a black screen over there, and these
Sorry.
lights aren't on.
Sorry, I was just like, I don't know. That's mission
I
critical.
keep looking over here and seeing your fucking little footsies.
Yeah,
catch
no,
on.
I did
No
it- I
big
did it
deal.
once. I
Fucking
moved it. I stopped.
8
I stopped.
XLR cables. No,
we
it's
get
fine.
it. You played soccer.
No, you'd know that better if he fell to the ground grabbing his calf.
goalie reflexes, right?